Your B2B Marketing Pint is the podcast for B2B technology marketers who want to sharpen their competitive edge. Joined by other marketing veterans, your hosts Brian O'Grady and Brendan Ziolo share expertise on what works today and why. Grab a cold pint of hot takes on branding, content marketing, demand generation, and more, served with a side of sarcasm.
Attention, marketers. It's time for B2B Marketing Pint. Put the latte down. Brendan, who are we talking to today?
Well, it's my pleasure to introduce today's guest, who is Jim Shields. He spent, let's just say the last few years, I won't embarrass him with the number here, proving that funny and serious aren't mutually exclusive in B2B. Sounds intriguing. He was the creative force behind Restricted Intelligence, the world's first sitcom about cybersecurity, and the award-winning drama series, The Inside Man. We're not talking Hollywood here, we're talking B2B marketing, trust me. Jim built Twist and Shout Communications into a globally recognized storytelling powerhouse before it was acquired, and now he's a freelance for hire, everyone. I actually had the pleasure of collaborating with Jim on a series called The New Guy for Alcatel-Lucent back in the day. So I've seen firsthand how this all comes together, and I was super excited when Jim and I reconnected recently and thought he'd be great to join us on the podcast and walk us through all of that. Jim, how much did I screw up your bio there?
No, that's great. I'm going to keep that one for future reference. I like it.
All right, my gift to you.
Thank you. I like the powerhouse bit. That'll go. I'm going to do that.
Perfect. And as tradition holds, Jim, hopefully you brought something to drink with you, and could you share what you're drinking?
Sure. Yeah, you warned me about this, so I picked a beer that I really like. This is a beer from a region in the UK called Cornwall. I don't know if you know the UK, but it's at the bottom, the bit that looks like a foot sticking out into the Irish Sea. Basically, this is I'm going to open it now because I'm thirsty on one. It's a pale ale. It's 4.2% alcohol by volume, and it's a light drink. You can drink this all night and still remember who you are by the end of it. So,
see, I thought he was going to go, Brian, with you can drink this all night and be drunk just like the other ones.
You'll be drunk enough. It keeps you at a steady, happy place, I would say. So
perfect.
I'm holding it up to the mic. Here's where I pour pale ale into my laptop. Hold on.
Brendan, Jim's gone for it. So what are you drinking?
Yes. Well, no one will be surprised when I show you that I already poured mine again. I always forget.
Good man. I like it.
I try, but somewhat in honor of Jim, although I'm probably mixing up countries here a bit, but I've had a lot of Guinness.
I'm from Irish extraction.
Oh, there we go. So
Definitely.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm drinking a Guinness. I did put it in the properly branded glass though. So I think opening it early was okay. And once again, this is the non-alcohol variety since I don't actually drink beer. I don't know if I shared that with you, Jim. I don't drink
I did not know.
I'm on an experiment of...
What's Brian drinking? Do we know what Brian?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Brian, why don't you share?
We're going to Germany today. This is a
DAB lager. Right. Okay.
There we go.
DAB lager. As far as I can tell, it's hard to go wrong when you use beer and the word Germany in the same sentence.
Well, yeah, the beer favorite of football hooligans the world over. Yeah.
Okay.
Can of lager.
All right. Well, we may be off to a great start and have probably insulted a few different nationalities already on this call. Apologies to all our listeners. It was not intentional, but we're now drinking beer, so who knows what else will happen today. Cheers. Yeah. See, I'm just messing this up.
Here we go.
To no end today. Cheers.
The colors in there.
Well, why don't we start it off on a good foot, Brian, and you kick us off rather than me butcher the first question.
I'm into it.
Perfect.
I've wet my whistle. I've got my German lager, and we have questions, Jim. So I hope you're ready.
I'm ready. Like a coiled spring.
Fantastic. So here's the first one, which is I happen to be a fan of comedy, but like you, I am also trapped in a B2B world, which maybe makes that a little more difficult. Now, I know when anybody launches their brand sparkling new B2B marketing program, somebody will say, we should have a data sheet. Everyone around the table will nod. Somebody else will say, oh, and a case study. They love them some case studies, and everybody will nod. And then the young enfant terrible, the scary person in the room will say, have you considered an explainer video? And everyone will go, ooh, an explainer video.
With
and
the
then a guy
guy?
Yeah, well, the whiteboard kind. Yeah, exactly. But then a guy like you shows up, and I don't know how the rest of this story goes because it's so rare in my experience in B2B marketing. But a guy like you shows up and says, oh, I've got a big shiny idea. We should have a whole scripted video sitcom series about something B2B marketing related. How the heck do you make that case around a boardroom table?
Well, one thing I like to point out is that, especially in tech, and for me it was IT and telecommunications. So if you look at the web pages of the top 5 wholesale cellular communications providers, like the heavy lifters in the industry, they generally look the same. There's kind of a networky, matrixy background, and there's kind of a couple of smiling people from different continents, because they're inclusive, and it's hard to differentiate. It's very difficult to make it feel like somebody is talking to you, Mr. Customer, like directly and personally. And so once you start to build that around, because they feel comfortable in that space, yeah. So you'll get questions like, oh, that sounds risky, sounds expensive and risky, which is worse, How do we fit the product in is another thing that I get. I'm really worried about it making them look silly, or worse still, offending somebody. So it's quite a mountain to climb. But what you're not really selling information at that point, because film and video is the wrong medium for pure information. It's a time-based medium, so you can't you can scroll back and dig for things, but it's a terrible format to do that. It's a great way to make people feel things. And actually, one thing I've learned is that if you can make somebody feel something, and whether that's, an affinity because you made them laugh, or empathy because it's dramatic, and they're into it and they like the characters and they feel seen, I think that it will fix a lot of the other communications issues. I always say that things like, to some extent, specification and price sort of take a back seat when somebody has already fallen in love with the idea. Look at that. If you look at how we buy cars, I don't know what you drive, but in a family situation, you should have a minivan because they're cheap to run. You know where I'm headed with this. They're cheap to fix, they're cheap to buy, they're cheap to insure. The SUV, on the other hand, the sports utility vehicle that's, very sexy and can climb up a mountain, and not that you ever need it to, that's what you end up buying because marketing works. And it's the story we buy, not the item. And I think I rest my case on that one.
Yeah,
so I just hammer those things. And it's kind of, once it's proven, it's all in. If you've got a few case studies to talk about what happened with people, then with other companies, they just want to know they're not the ones trying out for the first time.
Wow. Okay, I can't really argue with that. I'd love to. That's kind of what we're here to do. I will say, though, that my minivan also came with a golden retriever and a house in suburbia and 3 children. So I got the whole package.
Oh, you had the platinum package. Well done. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. But on B2B Marketing Pint, I would be a fool not to point out that there's this old marketing aphorism that says if you haven't marketed beer and you haven't marketed automobiles, you haven't marketed anything. And the argument for that is 9 out of 10 people can't tell the difference between any kind of beer. It's all about the label, which I think is similar to what you're saying, creating an emotional connection.
It's the story. There's in Tribute Pale Ale from an independent brewery in St Austell Brewery down in Cornwall. It's a kind of a pagan area in some respects. It's got history. It's got goblins. It's like there'll be beasties here on the map. It's got tons of rich history, and that you drink the beer because you feel like you're connecting to your ancestors. Let's go there. And I don't think B2B marketers don't have a content problem. Like if you're representing a big brand, especially in something like tech, they don't have a content problem. They have the 150 slide PowerPoint, which is the cut down version that they're just going to run you past so that you understand the product. That's not the problem. They've got content. What they have is an attention problem. And in a noisy marketplace, that getting somebody's attention is incredibly hard with a data-driven approach, with an information-driven approach. It's hard.
So, as I mentioned in the bio, Jim, you and I had the pleasure of working together, or at least I had the pleasure of working with you. We won't tell our listeners if it's mutual the other way. But, the new guy turned into what was probably one of the biggest marketing successes at the company, thanks to you and the team and some good selling internally to get it approved.
Well done, you.
I think one of the things that really bode well for it was totally unexpected from Alcatel-Lucent at the time. So word started to spread. People wanted to check it out, that type of thing. But it was also cool because it led with story and character and comedy as well, right? So there were definitely attributes. So how do you figure out what kind of story and character will resonate with a B2B audience? And, how do you know you found the right one? Because I'm assuming, as you developed the new guy, that wasn't the only option. There were multiple
No,
ones.
we always put 3 in. We have the rule of 3. They have the first one that's the safe one. And if at the time we need the cash flow, we'll probably sell for that as well. There's the middle one, which is a good idea, strong idea. It's brave, but not too brave. And then there's the third one, which will probably get you fired. And so, that needle swings various ways. I honestly think this one was probably between the middle and the last one. I think it might have been the brave one. Because again, it costs more money to make TV. And what we're talking, let's not make any mistake. We're not talking about corporate communications here. We're talking about sponsored content as if it were TV. You could put the new guy in front of any streaming channel and they'd be like, yeah, that's something we would broadcast if it was a 28-minute program. And I think that the issue really is how do you find the story? You look at the person that the company is selling to or influencing and put that character at the center of the story. Because what you want is for that chief information officer to feel like they've been seen. And if the jokes are in jokes, it's so great. It's a great way to connect with them and bypass everything, all the competition, the Rottweiler at the desk, all of that. You can bypass all of that with a connection. I'll give you a great example in a domestic world. If you've been to a wedding where there's been a best man speech, and they may not be the best orator in the world. They may have written a ton of notes and they're fumbling through them and all of that. But in the room on that day, when you're on the verge of tears anyway, this person is so relevant and connected to everybody in the room. Anything they say is hilarious. Anything they say. They're witty, they are insightful, they're empathetic, it's romantic. All of those things come to play because of who they are and how well they know the room. You're using the same set of rules in B2B marketing when you're talking to the target, for want of a better word, within an organization who you'd like to impress or connect with. And that means that you have to be that best man speech. You have to know about the family moments, and you go, what are the things that, we all kind of know about the bride and we all kind of know about the groom, and it's usually about the groom, let's face it. And so that's why we're like, oh yeah, Barry's always like that. Oh my goodness, I remember that weekend or whatever, That's what we're doing. We're making it familiar. We're looking at what is risky or frustrating about their world, and that's our story. So we already have 2 elements. It's the story and the characters, or at least one of the characters, and there are other characters. And then the third part of any story is the moral of the tale. And what is the moral of the tale? Is that we have a solution that can help you fix all this. And that's the moral of the tale. So that's how it all lands for me. Does that make sense?
I'm now suspicious that best man speeches in the UK are way superior to the ones I've been part of. I don't know.
Oh, I
We'll
don't
see.
know.
You're gonna have to come to one in the UK.
And
That's
Well,
a great example, though. That one sticks. I want to follow up on the humor piece with Barry the Best Man, maybe, which is if you bring Barry the Best Man back to the boardroom table, and
oh,
Barry's pitching his big
it's just after
shiny.
the reception, so he's a
That's
little
right. He's in great
wet.
shape, and he's pitching his big comedic idea. I see, or at least in my experience, there's two big hurdles. One we talked about off the top, which is how do you get people to say yes to that in the first place, which is a big challenge. But secondly, perhaps in my experience, this is even greater risk, is there's usually somebody in legal or in the leadership team who, if it gets the green light, then begins to sand off all of the edges and remove all of the comedy line by line, piece by piece, item by item through production. And you're still maybe basking in the glow of getting this crazy idea greenlit. But as you go, it's slowly being distilled, watered down, and turned into nothing.
Yeah, it's
How
not
do
made
you,
yet.
yeah, how do you prevent that from happening? How do you prevent a giant brand with a lot of rules from saying that's cute, Jim, but here's how we do things here?
Yeah, and that is where managing the customer relationship comes in. And I've spent decades crafting an approach that really helps them understand that this isn't a traditional way to communicate with customers. This will cut through, and there is a place for all of those things that they're talking about, for data sheets and for case studies and all of that. There is a place for that. It's not in this film or series, because you're using it. It's a different tool. People go, oh, it's a video. No, it's not. It's not a video. You don't go, I'm going to sit down tonight with a bottle of wine and watch a video. You're not. You're going to watch a film or a TV series, your favorite one. It's a different product and it does a different job. And I developed this idea about the pyramid of communication, where the first contact is the bit that we work on. It's the emotional bit. If you lead with 150 slides, that's a tough sell, because what you're really asking for is 2 hours of their time, and good luck with that, you know. But if you're just saying, listen, this is transactional, if you give me 5 minutes for an episode or 10 minutes, I will entertain you about your world in some way. That's the transaction. So give me the time, I will make you smile. And that's how it's going to do. While you're eating your sandwich at your desk or however you want to do it, this is the transaction. It is, and what's great about that is when it's manageable in bite-sized pieces, which is why we do episodes, we make it episodic, we're able to get more bandwidth across the line than a 2-hour pitch session with specs and charts and wiring diagrams and all of those things. And that's the thing. It's a different animal. It's really important. The truth is our defense. If it's accurate, it's justifiable. We're framing the humorous side of it as a delivery mechanism for serious messages. Don't confuse it with being silly or disrespectful. That's just entertainment as a carrier for the message that you need about the brand. And that's really a lot of the building blocks of how we do this. The thing you mentioned earlier about watering it down in some way, watered down comedy isn't safe. It's just ineffective. It just doesn't work. It just won't work. It's as simple as that. You can really crash the plane by not flying fast enough off the ground, to clear the trees, if you know what I mean.
Go for it or don't go for it.
Go or don't go. And that is an understanding that is built in from the beginning, at the meetings and the presentation, the pitch meeting at the very beginning. And I think making them feel that the worst thing we can do is the average thing, is the bare minimum. That's the worst thing they can do. And they know it deep down. They know, they do. And luckily, we built up enough experience doing this many times that the risks are minimized, but the benefits are as you know, quite rich. So
that's brilliant. And the next thing you're going to say that B2B marketers are actually all human beings at heart, and we all function.
I am. Oh well, Well, that's I'm going to save that for later, because that is the big revelation is that B2B marketing is different than consumer marketing, and it shouldn't be. It's just a pathway like any other, and it starts at the same spot with a human being.
So I love some of the tips and insights you're bringing here, Jim, with the audience as how you find your character, the problem of how you find your story,
Yeah,
the tip of the pyramid or the tip of the iceberg as being where you want to engage, not lead with the base or the
yeah.
150 slide deck. I mean, that all
There's several
makes a
tiers.
ton of sense to me, and I think it would make a ton of sense to the audience as well. But at some point, in B2B, we need to convert, we need to deliver pipeline, and we
Yeah.
need to deliver some messages around the product.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going through the creative process here to build out one of these series, are you starting with the story and figuring out how to weave the value prop in? Does the value prop sit front and center and you work around that? Kind of walk us through how you connect the
Okay.
dots.
Well, I'm really glad you said value proposition and not product, because the product has got no place in this, which will horrify certain product marketers. But the value proposition is the story, because let's take a really good example with the New Guy series. One of the issues in the industry was, at the time, and probably still is vendor lock-in. Like, and what with, we see this in consumer as well with Apple. You buy an Apple cable, it's $50, and you buy one from Timu and it's $2, and guess what, they both kind of work. So with this idea of vendor lock-in, we wrote a thread into the story that this New Guy was from a smaller, more agile company, and the big stodgy company acquired that company and was trying to impose its ways upon the small, nimble team. And through those, we could cherry pick with laser precision, we could cherry pick the issues that the company was having. And this was through, there are lots of meetings where I got to talk to, marketing people as well as salespeople as well. I always try to talk to someone who's had first contact with a customer. What, they hear day-to-day stories. I go, what is your lived experience? I want to know, tell me what these people care about, what keeps them up at night. And I take all of that and we go, Rob, my writer partner, and I go off into the cave and it all comes out. And then we have the lovely what if session, because the workshop to get the story down is such an important part of the process, because the marketers are involved. We're scribbling all over the wall. There's lines connecting things. It looks like a murder scene inquiry. We're finding where the story is, and it's just as good as any other story. If there's friction, if there's grit in this story somewhere, it's interesting. If people get upset or frustrated, if people get fired, yeah, it happens. And there are echelons within the customers' companies that the CIO will be familiar with. There's always some guy who's on customer support and is just like rattling out a script, and they may hate that, but it's just how it's done. So we look at all of the facets of the customer experience for them and go, how can we make that guy go, oh man, finally somebody gets me? And that's my goal, is to do that. And once you've got that, you can put anything else down it, except a product or a logo, because this is sponsored by the brand. If you talk to us, what you're saying is, in real shorthand, you're saying these are our values. These are what we care about. And we made this.
And I think what was cool when we did the New Guy, Jim, was we weaved in product and solution and other material as an afterthought, right? We led with this to your tip of the pyramid,
reverse engineered,
and then we drilled down. And I think that was what was really effective in driving this interest into something more on the demand side. And also I think it did help sell it internally, right? Because then we were like, okay, wait, we're not talking product here, but look at all the things we're connecting it to further down. So I think it's not one piece of content that will never be seen So there's
No,
not one piece of content that you
it's
never see
ecosystem.
anything else. It's a whole building block and
Do you
structure that
remember
needs to be thought through.
Do you remember we interviewed a couple of executives? And to my shame, I can't remember their names, but actually, they talked about the real world thing and related it to the Inside Man. We had a little behind the scenes documentary thing that's other content. If you look at the pyramid, that's the next layer down.
Yeah,
This
I
is
think
how
I was one. I think I was one of those suckers you conned in
you
because
were.
I remember. I still remember to this day. I had my makeup done. It was very exciting.
There's a little
But yeah,
going on around here. I'm not
Yeah.
going to lie.
I think I might have had a bit of more hair then too.
Maybe.
But yeah, the behind the scenes was another great way. That's another good point on how you could connect additional messages here. Sorry, Brian, we're going down a trip down memory lane here.
Yeah, sorry,
I
we
love
went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Well,
do you want to ask our favorite question of the session?
I do. Thank you, Brendan. And Jim, before I do, so buckle up. You're going to get the B2B Marketing Pint classic question in a moment.
Okay.
Be prepared. But before I do that, I want to point out, I think you just echoed in your response to Brendan's question there, the same philosophy that was behind the invention of the soap opera on radio, which was, hey, we're going to create these dramas people want to listen to. And in between, we're going to have commercials and get our message across that way.
About their lives, and they can relate to it. You've already got their attention. You've opened up a channel of communication, and now we're just going to poke a little offer down there.
Yeah, very cool.
And aren't they called soap operas because of the company that sponsored them the first in the very first case?
And Procter & Gamble and those people.
And if that company still exists, we can be bought. We're looking for a sponsor. We're just putting that out there. It should probably be a beer sponsor, but if, you sometimes after beer too.
Congratulations, Brian. We waited till almost the 20-some minute mark before we made our first plug for sponsorship. True. We normally hit much earlier when we're talking beer, Jim. So yeah, we held back today.
Brilliant.
All right, Jim. It's time to get serious about not being serious.
Okay.
This is the perennial favorite of ours. I don't know if it's the favorite of our guests or not, Brendan, but perennial favorite question on B2B Marketing Pint. There's people listening right now who are in your space. There's people listening right now who are outside of your space. This is your chance. We've given you, if you'll excuse the pun, a soapbox. And this is your opportunity to burst some bubbles, to destroy some myths, to get rid of them, because there's a lot of baloney out there about humor in B2B marketing. And you have an opportunity right now to burst the biggest bubble, destroy a myth. What's the one that makes you the most angry and makes you grit your teeth when you bump into it incessantly that you would like to get rid of today?
Okay. Well, the biggest myth I can talk about, and I hinted at it earlier, is the biggest myth in B2B is that the audience stops being human when they get to work. As simple as that. Because, we love a good story. And, if you make it, things that people get bogged down with, things like the length of the video, for example, the length of the episode or the film or whatever it might be. I always say that the length isn't terrible. It's the fact that the story is crap that's the problem. Do you feel it's too long? And I want to make things that you can't let go.
Yeah, I'm noticing the clock. There's a problem.
Yeah, I'm proud to say that a lot of the content I make, there are true fans out there, especially with things like Restricted Intelligence and The Inside Man. I know the new guy had fans, and people watched the whole series. And what they do is they chase the IT guy down the corridor to go, when's the next episode coming out? I need to know. Nobody does that with cybersecurity training. Nobody does that. Yeah. So to have achieved that means that the theory holds for me, that if you make it compelling enough and fascinating enough, and it kind of relates to where you work a little bit, and you think, yeah, I care now. You're making people care. Whereas if you bombard them with the 150 slides, they kind of don't care. You're asking a lot of them. You will make them want to get involved with the 150 slides.
To be clear, you're maintaining your position that inside these glass towers with the logos, those things are full of real, living, breathing human beings.
Yeah. And however you might argue that this is more analytical than a B2C pitch, they're going to make an emotional connection with it. They're going to have some kind of, well, I don't know. If it's close, I just feel good about these guys. I just feel like they have the right idea. This is innovative. Therefore, they will be innovative for us. There's a lot of that by attachment sort of values going on there. And communicating values is hard because most of us have read a mission statement and that doesn't make any sense. It's just flat lines. Because it was a committee of 10 people that wrote the mission statement and they all needed their department in there. So now it's half a page long and you're done. Put a fork in it,
Agreed. One of my web heroes, Jerry McGovern, used to say that the single worst way to design a website was to get 10 smart people around a table with lattes. And they're also writing mission statements when they're not doing websites.
Of course. Yeah. There you go. It's a nightmare. But that is the biggest myth busting thing. There's also a few things that marketers get wrong. Well, you mentioned before about the other team that come in to go, okay, so we're going to need to talk about overloading. We'll have a script talk about this feature that we're really proud of. And then I have to say, okay, what would the world look like without this feature? And they go, oh, well, it would be like this. And I go, well, we're going to do that. We're not going to show your feature. Like, why not? Because we want people to see the gap. We don't want people to see the thing. Don't let customers make their own mind up whether they can, use that or not. That's the heavy lifting part. Just identify with the vacancy that is there and make sure and just tell them that you understand the vacancy.
That makes a lot of sense. And I've been part of so many discussions around marketing tables where people are saying, how do we demonstrate that we understand our audience's pain, that we understand their pain points?
Yeah, and that's it.
You just described it.
Yeah, two types of people in the world: those who bring pain and those who take it away. As simple as that. Oh, well, there's a third type, and they're the ones you don't know.
making you the ibuprofen of B2B Marketing Pint, I suppose.
Yeah.
Brendan, where to from here?
Well, I think unfortunately we're running short on time, so we're at that time where we need to wrap this up. But I do find it fascinating now, Brian, and I'm going to butcher this. Maybe Jim can clean it up for me afterwards. But we've now had a behavioral scientist and a comedian on our podcast talk about how B2B is not that different from B2C. So I feel like there's, a behavioral scientist and a comedian walk into a bar type joke here coming up. So Jim, if you can help, clarify that, clean that up for us, we'll make sure we post that when we make that live. But yeah, I think that parallel is fascinating, that two, I would argue, probably different types of thinkers highlighting the same myth here, totally unprompted. So very interesting.
What is the problem to be solved? Yeah.
But Jim, I really appreciate your time. Like I said at the outset, it was great to reconnect. I know it's been a few years, but happy that you're out for hire now, and hoping we get to work together on some project in the future. But for now, I really appreciate you joining us on the podcast. Great insights, great topic. And as Brian and I both said when we were prepping for this, hey, this is all about comedy, and we're both big fans of that when it comes to B2B. So it makes a ton of sense. So really appreciate it, Jim.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. You've made this so easy to happen. It feels like we're just in a tavern down the town center.
I was going to say, that's the beer talking, Brian. We made it easy.
This is great,
but
guys.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Cheers, and good luck with the rest of it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Hey, folks, if you liked that episode, you won't believe the next one.
So don't forget to subscribe on your favorite platform and you won't miss out.
Or if you've got an idea we haven't thought of yet, hit us up in the comments. We'll cover that too.